Greens, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dante, and welcome to Project Podcast. And today, we'll be expressing our opinions on video games, consoles, and genres, whether it's positive opinions that people like us love to share and express with, or talk about opinions that us ourselves consider unpopular. Now, before we get started, I'd like to introduce our guest who will be joining for this podcast.
Hello, my name is Toby.
Hello, my name is Luke.
That's great. The very first question I want to ask you is, what was your introductory to video games? Starting with you, Toby.
My introductory to video games was via the Wii U. No, sorry, not Wii U, Wii. With Mario Kart. That was probably the first ever game I played.
Okay then. What about you, Luke?
My introduction to video games was probably from the PS2, where I used to play games like Spider-Man 2 off of it, and some other Spider-Man games basically as well. Like, I think there was a Spider-Man 3 game that I played on that as well.
That's interesting. My first introductory was with the Wii, and the very first
Same
game
with me.
I ever played was Wii Sports.
Oh, I love Wii Sport.
But it could also possibly
funny.
be the Nintendo DS with New Super Mario Bros. DS.
For me, I like when I properly got into games, because it wasn't really exactly on the PS2. Like, I basically started getting into games, but when I started like properly getting into them, it was on the mainly on the PS3, where I basically just got into playing very violent games like COD.
Alright then. What was your first and favorite video game console and handheld? It doesn't have to be both the same video game. It can either be more than one games.
My first video game console was the Wii. However, I'd say my favourite is probably my Xbox. I got an Xbox One, I'm going to say about 5 years ago. And then recently this year I got a Series X. And I personally prefer Xbox over any other console, especially because the Forza Horizon and Forza Motorsport games, which I love to play, are Xbox exclusives.
Alright then, it's great to know.
For me, my first console, was the PS2, but my I've basically always been on the PlayStation for me. So basically PlayStation consoles are my favourite ones. I have had an Xbox, but I technically just tend to prefer it, since I've basically been playing from the PS2, then onto the PS3, then PS4, and then now PS5. So I've just basically been stuck with PlayStation, and so far it's been fine. But like I have like played on like some DS's as well in the past, which I played stuff like Mario Kart off of, but mainly I've just favourite one I've mainly been playing off of is PlayStation.
My very first video game console was the Wii, again, and the handheld, it's the Nintendo DS. The third question I want to ask you two is, what were your childhood games? Like, what were like the earliest video games you ever played as a kid?
My earliest ones was probably on the Wii, my first video game console and my introduction to video games. Probably Mario Kart, that's a big game. And probably then a couple of years later with the Wii U, I completed my first ever game, which was Lego City Undercover. I can always remember that was the only game that I've completed.
That's it? Alright then. There's a lot of famous good games you played. What about you, Luke? What were your childhood games?
For me, my childhood games would be, the one that I mentioned beforehand, Spider-Man 2, because I like playing that game due to the freedom it kind of gave you throughout the game. It's like the first open world game I played before, like, I think it was probably like Assassin's Creed was like the next one. But I just like the whole feeling of being able to just be able to swing across the map, which was like New York, and they got the web slinging done really well in that game, even though it was really old. And then like my other childhood games would basically just be COD games, which would be like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, and mainly just the Modern Warfare franchise, and then a couple of the Black Ops games, and then Board at War, which yeah, my childhood games, some of them are like really violent, and then some of them are just like childish ones, like some Lego ones. Like I used to play Lego Pirates of the Caribbean a lot. But the ones that I don't think I really completed a game when I was like really young. Not like fully 100%ed like getting all the achievements or anything, but like if you're going on about the basis of like completing the story and campaign, I'd say it'd be Call of Duty, but that one's like decently straightforward. But that was probably like one of the first games I completed. Didn't get all the achievements though. It's only until like recently where I've started completing games like 100% for the achievements, because I just never really bothered with it.
Yeah, I think I was around possibly 11 or 12 years old when I completed the Lego game. And yeah, I don't think I got all of the achievements or any secret things, but I completed the main story, which was a first for me at that time.
As for me, I haven't played any of the Lego games, but I do heard from them they're very good games to play. As for my childhood games, the most memorable ones are the new Super Mario Bros. Games, more specifically DS and Wii, but I wouldn't beat those two games until I was like age 13 and 16 years old, respectively, for both games. Which games that give you the most nostalgia when you played them?
Without a doubt, it's got to be Mario Kart. I played that game so much. And then I played Mario Kart 8 so much as well. I love them. And then when I got my Xbox as well, I've been playing the Forza Horizon games for years. I've played 3, 4, and now 5. I've been following them every way. I absolutely love the games. And then I went and re-got Forza Horizon 2 as well, but I could never get the first one. So without a doubt though, my number one nostalgia game is Mario Kart.
I can agree with you there. Mario Kart Wii specifically is
Wii.
like the game that gives me a lot of nostalgia. There are more games such as, again, the new Super Mario series, some Sonic games here and there, as well as a lot of games on my Wii that gives me nostalgia too.
Yeah.
And as much as I love other games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Double Dash, those games I played recently, I still think Wii may be the best, but that could be just merely due to my nostalgia.
Yeah, I personally think so. And especially when I had the wheel, so I put the controller in the wheel and you played it, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I would probably say the Modern Warfare games again, because they brought out like remasters of number 1 and 2, like sort of kind of recently. Like it's still some time ago, but like they remastered Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, which wasn't that bad, the remaster, and the game, playing it through again was like really good. Like you're playing through it with newer graphics, but it's basically still, the majority of it is still the same old gameplay. Same thing with Modern Warfare 2 campaign remastered. Playing that again was like extremely nostalgic, because Modern Warfare 2 was like the game that I played a stupid amount of times when I was really young. Like I completed the campaign like probably 50 times on that game, just constantly redoing all the missions from beginning to end. Don't know why, but I did. And then so getting the remaster for the campaign for that was nostalgic, because like I can remember all of like these missions that I'd done, but on like older graphics, but this time it's with newer ones, but it practically all works about the same, but they added like a couple of extra secrets and cheats to it, which adds more to the game. But yeah, because that game, the Modern Warfare games are just like nostalgic for just having good story.
Since you're like a Modern Warfare fan, the fifth question I want to ask next is, what are your top 3 favorite video game genres?
Top 3 favorite genres: racing, simulator, probably. I do like a good simulator, and probably also open world as well.
That's great. What about you, Luke?
For me, I like open world games as well, but I tend to mainly like games that are like usually story focused, but I do like multiplayer games like shooters and stuff. But I tend to like kind of games that are kind of like RPGs that are story focused only, because at that point, I don't know, it's just you can get like really good stories out of them, and then like if you're playing with friends, you can just jump onto a shooter or something, play with them. It's just, that's why I'm like with my genres. Open world games, though, that can come under basically both of them, since you can have open world RPGs that are story focused, and then you can... I don't think there's really many open world shooters, though, from my knowledge. At least not ones that are good, anyway. Unless you count Battle Royales, I don't know if that counts as open world.
Okay. As for me, my top 3 favorite genres has to be, like, from number 3, I would say fighting games, because when it comes to fighting games, one of my favorite things to do is, like, practice on chaining combos, as well as knowing when and where to pull out an attack. The most big example is Smash Brothers. For next one is racing games, because thanks to games like Mario Kart and Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transform. And
Oh, I used to love that game as well. That's pretty nostalgic for me.
yeah, and platformers is the last one. Both like 2D and 3D. The next question should be a very interesting one, because this one, I want us to know our favorite games and console of all time.
My favourite console, I'll probably say of all time, is, I'm just going to say Xbox in general.
Okay.
My favourite games, Mario Kart 8, I'm going to say Forza Horizon 5 as well, and that's probably it.
Okay.
I haven't really played that many games in my lifetime, really. I just tend to either...
It's okay, I'm not
I just
expecting a
either
long
tend
list.
to go to a certain franchise, for example, Forza Horizon. Obviously, I've played those through, so I like that. And then I just choose like a couple of games that I like. I like Sims as well. I wouldn't really say that's probably my all-time favourite, but one I do like playing, because, yeah, I don't really tend to play that many games.
For me, favourite console, at the minute, I would say, well, PS5, but it's just like mainly PlayStation consoles in general, because the majority of them have, well, just been good. And for the most part, I've been like kind of like the top on the consoles, kind of. But yeah, but like for my favourite games, I would probably say Spider-Man 2, both of them. But yeah, both of them, the old one that was on the PS2 and then the new one that's came out recently, which is really good. And then like I would usually say like COD would be my favourite game, but it's just not been so good recently at the minute. Like it's just died down so much. And then I would say Assassin's Creed, but that's also died down as well. Flipping, it's not as good as what it used to be. I would say like the older Assassin's Creed games are some of my favourite, like Brotherhood and Black Flag, but the new ones, no. Especially like Valhalla's alright, but it's not an Assassin's Creed game. Barely do any parkour, and most of it you're just running through grass and hills for about like 20 minutes until you get to a new location, which is boring unless you use fast travel. But the map's way too big. It's like nearly the entirety of England in a blooming map, and then you have DLCs that include Ireland and blooming the in-between of Ireland and Wales, I think it is, or something like that, which is like the Isle of Man. But yeah, that game's just way too big, and the story's kind of a bit too long. It takes like 100 hours to blooming do the story. And then you have Assassin's Creed Mirage, which was meant to go to the original basics, but they didn't end up doing that. But yeah, so favourite games, Spider-Man games, I guess I would say Fortnite, since I've been playing that a lot more recently.
It was one of your all-time favourites.
I guess I used to like it when it came out. I did not like it. Then I started to like it during when it was turning into season 4, and then I stopped liking it towards the end of chapter 1, and then got back into the game only recently. Properly.
Yeah, I didn't like it when it first came out, but then I played it. I got into it before COVID, and then I played it a lot through lockdown, and then after that I got bored and I haven't touched it since, so God knows how many updates there is.
For me, I didn't play it through lockdown at all. Unless I don't know, it depends when the Marvel season came out. If that came out during lockdown, then yeah, I
wouldn't have a clue.
I don't know, it was chapter 2 season 5, whenever that is. I played it again then, but then I came off of it after that season was done, because then there was no more Marvel stuff. But yeah, I'm trying to think of some other favourite games I've played.
I'm not expecting a big long list, just so you know.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of a genre, because I used to like card games. It's just not as good now. Another one of my favourite games of all time would probably be like Payday 2 and the Payday franchise. Payday games are really good, and Payday 2 had like a stupid amount of updates. Like the post-launch content lasted like 8 or 9 years, which is a decent amount of time. And then you have another one which is on the open world category would be like GTA, which GTA 5's been out for blooming ages, and I don't know when GTA 6 is coming out. It might be next year or the year after, whenever Rockstar decides to blooming finish the game. But yeah, that's what I'd basically probably say my favourite games are.
As for me, well, as someone who never played any console games that isn't Nintendo, my favorite games of all time has to be Rayman Legends, Super Mario Galaxy 2, and finally Mega Man X. Favorite console? Obviously the Wii. I mean, like, there's just no topping it, but I do really like the Nintendo Switch. That's like a close second. The next question is, what are your favorite third-party games?
My favourite third party, probably Bus Simulator. I think they've had about 3 or 4 games out now, and thanks to the latest tram extension on the latest one, they're releasing a tram simulator, so I'm gonna get that. And also House Flipper. I actually really like that game, and I've been really looking forward to the second one also, which basically does what it says on the tin. You basically just redecorate old houses that have been through some tough times, just make them into nice new homes.
So you don't literally flip a house?
No, no, but I like playing quite soothing games, and they supply me with that.
Alright, so what are your favorite third-party franchises?
Mine, I would probably say it's probably like COD again, just not the new ones. Assassin's Creed, but not the new ones. And then GTA, because that comes on the third party. You have games like Just Cause, which are really good games. They're a fun open world sandbox game where you can you basically just go around blowing stuff up. And then you have the Payday games again, which you also have Payday 3, which is a new one that's out, but I need to properly play that. But I can play off the Series X because it's got Game Pass, but there's controller delay, so I think I might just wait until I ever decide to get on the PS5. And then another third-party game would probably be like Star Wars Battlefront 2 and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor. Them games are good. Battlefront 2 was a really good game until EA decided to shut it down because they don't know what they're doing with the money. They shut it down and then put the money towards Battlefront 2042, and that went nowhere. The game's only on its like 3rd season. It's been out for like a year and a bit. That game's trash. I wish Battlefront 2 still got support, but no, they shut it down.
Alright then, as for me, my favorite third-party franchises, it has a lot of them, but the most big examples for me is Sonic, the Mega Man franchises, Rayman franchise, and finally Crash Bandicoot. Those are like 4 third-party franchises I remember liking that I consider my favorites. The next question is, what games that you consider underrated and overrated? Games that you think that don't get enough appreciation, which is considered underrated, and games you think that got too much attention, too much praise.
Okay, so I'm going to start with underrated, and I know it's probably quite a niche audience, but I'm going to say Bus Simulator. I absolutely love that game. It's brilliant. The graphics are good. You can do a lot of stuff in it. It's just brilliant. House Flipper as well. It's a really just nice, soothing game that you can just sit down and enjoy without being too stressful. I'd say overrated without any hesitation, Fortnite, definitely.
I got no arguments with that. I consider Fortnite an overrated game myself. I mean, I can see why it's like, I can see it's got some good things going for it. I'm just not that kind of audience who like those games.
I would even consider it overrated, even though I tend to play it.
I mean, I won't lie, I used to be in the camp and just hate Fortnite because it's like overrated, but I'm not in that camp anymore. But that doesn't mean I like it. I haven't played Fortnite for a long time, so I'm willing to hope one day I give it a chance. Is there another game you consider underrated?
Well, probably not underrated, but I know that obviously I love Forza Horizon games. I probably wouldn't say they're not underrated and definitely not overrated. I think they sit somewhere in the middle.
For me, underrated games, I would probably say is like a game like Spec Ops: The Line, which I knew about for ages because I used to play the demo a whole bunch on the
I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's a very underrated game. It has a really good story to the campaign.
What console is it on?
It was on Xbox and PlayStation. I think PC as well. But it just flew under the radar entirely. The multiplayer didn't do well because of that. Barely anybody got it, but then people found out about it, and then you're still able to get off the Xbox store now. Yeah, it's just underrated because the story on it is really good, and it has like a really good plot twist at the end, and it just didn't get much popularity at all. Another underrated game would be Card Ghosts. It did get some like popularity, but like a lot of people gave it a lot of hate for some reason due to the fact that apparently the maps were too big, even though the map size is fine with the game. I don't understand why people didn't like that because of that. For me, I played the game and enjoyed it a whole bunch. It's my favourite game for the Infected game mode in general, because the thing they did that was unique with the game is they made the maps interactive, where you could interact with like doors on the map and stuff and other things, and then they made like some maps where they had like a thing going on with them. Like my favourite map in it was like basically half a skyscraper like kind of got detached and like fell between these two skyscrapers, and it's just sort of there, and that's like what the map is, and it slowly falls like after the map goes, and that's like my favourite map for Infected as well, because everyone just heads towards like this elevator shaft and they all just stay there and then shoot the Infected as they come. But yeah, but for overrated games, I'd probably say FIFA.
Oh yes, I can agree with that. Not that I've personally played it, but I've seen people play it. And I just know it's just something that I just wouldn't like, and just it would be overrated.
FIFA's just, I don't know. I don't understand how people flipping get.
Well, it's
that
not even
every
called
year.
FIFA anymore, is it? It's called like FC something.
Why is it called FC?
Because FIFA didn't want to be part of it anymore or something. I can't remember. I wasn't really interested in it, but it was just something that because it's overrated, it gets everywhere.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just, I don't understand why it's so flipping popular. It's almost like the same game every year now. It's like the same thing with WWE. They're doing the same game practically every year. And then COD's basically definitely done the same thing now. They literally turned Modern Warfare 3 into an expansion onto Modern Warfare 2. It's the exact same game you're playing.
I'm so glad Forza isn't like that.
Yeah, luckily them games, they seem to actually change the gameplay up and improve the graphics. Not with these games, they just flipping pour out junk. But yeah, so that one's overrated. And then, well, as I said before, Fortnite's a bit overrated, even though I play that. I play it for like the points of how I like it, but I definitely know the game can get like sort of boring sometimes, and a lot of people just give it like, it's not as overrated as it used to be, because people have understood that the game.
Yeah, I agree that as well. Yeah.
Like I said, I'm no longer in that camp of hating it because it's overrated. Aside from like, for my underrated games I consider that don't get like an appreciation to me are like Rayman 3. Some people like Rayman 2, as well as the recent Rayman games, especially like Origin Legends. But people don't talk about Rayman 3, and I think it's like a good game. I think like the graphics age better than its predecessors, and I think the gameplay is very fun. One last underrated game I consider me is Crash of the Titans. I feel like that one gets too much hate and people don't give enough attention to it, and when they do, it's always very negative due to its being like very different from the previous games. Which is the most underrated and overrated video game consoles and portable?
Okay, right. My opinion is probably going to be controversial, but I don't think any console is underrated or overrated. I think they sit quite comfortably side by side. I think every different console has something different to offer, and it just depends what you want.
I would say the Xbox Series S is overrated. It's advertised a lot as being put down as a next-gen gaming console when the flipping output of the graphics and stuff is just, it's not good at all. Like, I'm pretty sure like the Xbox One X is better than the Xbox Series S.
Yeah, I heard, my uncle read somewhere that apparently video game designers aren't happy about Xbox releasing the Series S because for what they want to do with their games is limiting them for the Series S, whereas what they want to do, the Series X can handle it, but the Series S can't. So the game designers and the developers have been pleading Xbox to stop selling it as a next-gen console because it's not working for them.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
So they're having to compromise on their games.
It's not a next-gen console. They should have just done something like what PlayStation done, because the Series S is meant to be a digital console, and PlayStation done it better because what they done is you have the physical PlayStation, which has the disc drive, then you have the digital one, which doesn't have the disc drive, and it's basically the same console.
So does the PlayStation 5 not have a disc in it?
No, if you get the digital one, the PS5...
So they make two different versions?
Yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
The only difference is that one of them costs like more expensive.
Oh, yeah.
Both of them still expensive, but one costs slightly less.
The digital one is like £100 cheaper than the one with the disc drive. You're paying £100 for the disc drive, which is a bit, but still, you pay £100 less and you get the exact same console just without the disc drive. Compared with Xbox, it's like you get a console without a disc drive, which is just, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, after from moving from my one to finding which Series console I should get, it was really tough for me, but I got the Series X, and apparently according to you, I made the right decision.
Oh, another console to say is an overrated one would probably be the original Xbox One. The original one, no.
I was not in the gaming zone when that appeared.
No, that console flipping... when you put it alongside a blooming PS4 playing GTA, both the same game, PS4 can run GTA 30 FPS at 1080p, and then here's the Xbox One running the game at blooming 900p as the resolution, and then just struggling to stay at 30 FPS. It's like about 20 or something. It keeps going between 20 to 30. Like, it's not a flipping good console when it came out. If you got this decision between an Xbox One or a PS4, you go with a PS4, and then when the One S came out, that's still worse than a standard PS4. It's just the fact it can do 4K. The Xbox One X is actually a decent console. That is, Xbox One X is better than the PS4, and I think it's slightly better than the PS4 Pro, and the Xbox One X is also better than the Series S. But when it comes down to PlayStation just tends to know what they're doing with consoles. Portables though, underrated portable, I would say, I don't know, maybe PS Vita was a bit underrated, and it was an alright portable console. I would say overrated, like maybe the Switch slightly is a bit overrated, because like one that I would say is like a really good portable would be the Steam Deck. Steam Deck, you can play a lot of games off that. You get the whole Steam library you can play off that. Compared to the Switch, you're stuck with mainly Nintendo games and a couple other stuff.
Okay. As for me, I think the most underrated video game console portable is, for the console, it's to me the Wii U, and this is a console I talked about last time. So to summarize, I think the Wii U is underrated because I think it gets overshadowed by its successor and its predecessor being the Switch and Nintendo Wii. B, I think it had a lot of great games that were already on Switch. And C, I think it was held back by terrible marketing. The problem with the Wii U is that Nintendo had no idea what to do with the Wii U. Was it like the successor? Was it its own thing? Back in 2010, people didn't know. As for underrated portable, I would say the 3DS, because they just, same with the Wii U, had poor marketing. Finally, the last question is, which genre would you consider underrated and overrated?
I guess Battle Royale would be overrated now, because it's just not really as original as what it used to be. I still play Battle Royale games though, like Fortnite, but it's just a bit overrated. And then underrated genres, I don't know. probably just some open world story games might be a bit underrated.
Alright.
For underrated genre, I would probably say simulator. I know, again, simulators are very niche. They have very niche audiences, but I love simulators. Overrated, I'm gonna say fighting and shooting games, mainly because they just don't appeal to me, and
Okay.
I think they're overrated because they don't appeal to me.
What about Goat Simulator?
Goat Simulator.
I have actually played that. Not your classic simulator that I'm thinking of.
Okay, quickly for me, underrated genre, I would probably say like RPGs, like no, regardless RPGs, because most people, I can understand people don't like RPGs because they take very too long to complete. Overrated, that's very, I guess, platformers, despite me liking them, or open world games. Again, I don't consider them bad genres, but I could see, especially like in last year and this year, there have been like a lot of open world games. And there you have it, all the questions that answered throughout this entire podcast. If there's one thing that we can all agree on, is that everybody has their own stories to tell, especially on the gaming genre. I had quite fun talking about video games with you guys, but before I end this, is there any questions you'd like to ask?
Don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Alright then, I want to thank the both of you for your time here and answering all my questions. My name is Dante Wilson. Thank you so much for listening, and have yourselves a good day.